ये जो है जैसे ये घूमने होता ये लगी हुई
कभी बनेगा जितना
नहीं देखा ऐसे होते हैं जो नहीं देखने के
प्रॉब्लम होता है तेरे को डिजीज
मैं ऐसे हुआ तो पकड़ दे बना सकते हैं प्रोटीन Zero to the balance. Okay.
वाह क्लास में 2 बैठे हैं और बाकी सब लोग बाहर सोना क्यों only this many today?
Yes.
Where are the rest?
3 are there.
This 3 and both are exam what you were doing? Nothing. You're already done with all the questions.
We will start the rest.
Nervous system is started, no?
Not started.
Started. Yes, this structure.
I think I started.
That was just for the focus students who just told about nervous system.
अगर तुमको घर चलेगा
नहीं 9th वाले वो 9th वाले दरवाजा खोलेंगे
तो तुम लोग 9th के क्लासरूम में क्यों गए थे
वॉशरूम में वो मेन
exams over now how was it
Marks also.
you got the marks also कितने मिले
48 out of 50.
very good राधिका उसका मुंह बंद मत करो तुम बोलो हाँ एरर हुआ मिस्टेक्स हुए कितना बता कहाँ पे एरर हुआ could you understand कहाँ पे एरर हुआ हाँ so वहाँ पे तुमको थोड़ा सा you have to understand first of all is getting little bit low nothing to worry but then you should understand कि how can I rectify my error next time अभी भी टाइम है before the prelims if you make it a point that error जितना ज़्यादा कम हो what type of error I'm not digging you to understand what mark you got but I'm only trying to understand you try finding out your error and see that you can rectify तुम लोगों को कितना मिला 46
I did not give exam. I need to go to village urgently because my grandfather is back.
okay you missed that exam also sorry 30 huh 30 on 50 on 50 then my work hard
41.
I'm looking at you
40 and half.
and work hard you all can get much better अभी next जो exam आएगा that's the first prelims now coming no
Yes.
first prelims में keep a target कि minimum 2 to 3 marks से ज़्यादा error होना ही नहीं चाहिए second prelims में make it a target error less होना चाहिए मेरा पेपर 2 to 3 mark का error मान के चलोगे तो 10 mark का error तो ऐसे भी होगा and second prelims में मान के चलो कि you have to make your paper errorless फिर भी 2 mark 3 mark 4 mark का error होगा ही है ना so target रखो unless and until you start with a target it's not possible a target मतलब it's not that you set a big target हाँ मेरा paper errorless and you are sleeping on the sofa not ऐसे keep a target and work for it कि मुझे जैसा भी रिवीजन करना है कोई टॉपिक डिफिकल्ट लग रहा है 5 बार करो 7 बार रिवाइज करना है 7 बार रिवाइज करो बट आई हैव टू गेट इट कीप रिकलेक्टिंग डेवलप अ मेथड ऑफ रिकलेक्टिंग कितने लोग करते हो ऐसे 10th स्टैंडर्ड में बहुत जरूरत है 10th 11th 12th कितने लोग करते हो ऐसे रिकलेक्टिंग करते हो एनी टाइम दैट्स अ वेरी गुड मेथड जो तुमने पढ़ा है अभी कीप रिकलेक्टिंग कहीं यहाँ पे बैठे हो कीप रिकलेक्टिंग वॉशरूम में बैठ के भी रिकलेक्ट करो एनी टाइम यू शुड कीप रिकलेक्टिंग अच्छा वो ऐसे था वो कैसे था आपके माइंड सो दैट वे व्हाट हैपेंस यू बिकम कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट द टॉपिक्स ऐसे बहुत बार होगा नाउ दैट यू अपीयर फॉर द बोर्ड्स आल्सो योर प्रीलिम्स आल्सो काफी बार ऐसा भी होगा व्हेन यू विल नॉट गेट इनफ टाइम टू रिवाइज ऑल द चैप्टर्स Does that mean that वो सारे chapters के answers wrong लिख के आओगे या लिखोगे नहीं? You have to attempt full paper. तो keep recollecting, फिजिक्स है, मैथ्स है, केमिस्ट्री है, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, जो भी कॉन्सेप्ट थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट लगे वो 5 बार पढ़ो और बार अंदर 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 रिकलेक्ट करते रहो. हमेशा रिकलेक्ट करने से क्या होगा, that will be set, you will never forget that. Okay, so develop that method also. So nervous system पढ़ना है. Should we start with the chapter, or what are the chapters left? Just tell me, what are we left with? What are we left with?
Nervous system.
Genetics over here, no?
Yes.
Genetics. So the first set of chapters all over.
Yes.
Unit 1 all over.
Yes.
Unit 2 all over.
Yes.
Unit 3.
Circulatory and expiratory bone.
हाँ, और क्या बाकी है?
Nervous system to it.
7.
नर्वस सिस्टम बाकी है, एंडोक्राइन भी बाकी है ना यहाँ पे. एंडोक्राइन इज सेंस ऑर्गन्स, नर्वस सिस्टम, सेंस ऑर्गन्स एंड
Reproductive.
एंडोक्राइन. केमिकल कोऑर्डिनेशन इज ओवर.
Yes.
रिप्रोडक्टिव सिस्टम बाकी है.
Yes.
और क्या बाकी है? दैट्स इट. हाँ, पॉपुलेशन तो इट्स ओके, नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. और क्या है? दैट्स इट, नो?
Yes.
इवोल्यूशन तो नहीं है. Evolution is there.
Human population.
Evolution is there. I'll have to clarify. शायद evolution नहीं है. No, for CBSE it's not. Actually, for you all I have to clarify. Evolution है कि नहीं. But as it is, evolution that part is just theoretical, nothing much difficult. So चलो, now what are the main chapters left is nervous system, sense organs, endocrine, reproductive. So these are the 4 main chapters left. तो अभी कौन सा करना है? endocrine करना है, nervous system क्या करना है? Nervous system. So let us get started. So we talk about nervous system, tissues involved, structure, functions. Nervous system. Now for nervous system, what are we to study? What are the tissues involved first of all? Nervous system, we are talking about that part of our body which is constantly engaged in the process of coordination. The system of our body which is constantly involved in the process of coordination. What is coordination? What is coordination? For coordination, what is required?
Communication.
Communication. So for coordination, what is required? For coordination, there should be some receptors and there should be some effectors. So now, when I talk about coordination, what I am understanding is that there has to be some receptor, there has to be some effector, something like. When I'm talking about, first of all, let me not talk about receptors and effectors. Let me just talk about stimulus first. For coordination, first of all, there has to be a stimulus and there has to be a response. So if I talk about the word stimulus, what is the meaning? Stimulus here means we are talking about any type of a change in the external environment which can disturb our nerves or the nervous system, the tissues that we are talking about. So I started with this word coordination. I said, what is the meaning of coordination? Coordination means bringing about or showing different type of reaction with the changes in the environment. Showing different type of changes, movements of our body, movements of our face, with reference to the environment. Something like if somebody is calling, you look back at that person. Your mother asks you to get something, you get that. You move your body, get that particular thing for her. So now that I am talking, you are looking at me. That is also coordination happening right now. What I am writing down, you are writing down. So this is also coordination. So for this, right now, what is happening? My voice is acting as a stimulus for you all. My voice is acting as a stimulus. Then what is the definition of the word stimulus? Stimulus can be any agent or a factor that can bring about disturbance in our neurons. What is stimulus? Stimulus means any factor. Now that I'm talking, my voice is that strong enough which is able to bring about a disturbance in your neurons, and that is how you are able to pick up your pen and write. But if I whisper, will you do the same? Will you pick up your pen and write or do your sound? Nothing, because when I'm whispering, my voice is not that strong enough to bring about a disturbance in your neuron. But now if I scream, your response also will be different, no? So now, when I am talking about what is the meaning of the word response, the reaction that we show for any type of changes. Now suddenly a lizard falls on your head, the reaction will be something different. If I scream suddenly, your reaction will be different. Or I write something, your reaction is different, etc., etc. So first of all, I talk about this word. What is stimulus? Any agent or a factor that disturbs our neuron. So any agent or a factor that can disturb our neuron. So now that we are talking about any agent or factor, let us talk about some examples. Agent or factor. What can be some of those agents or the factors I may talk about? I may talk about sound right now that I said. I may talk about light. I may talk about touch. These are all examples. I may talk about prick, or I may talk about some pressure. I may talk about some chemicals. So light, sound, touch, prick, pressure, chemicals, all these are examples of stimulus, plural stimuli. Now, with reference to this, when I talk about with reference to this stimulus, there has to be a response. Then what is the meaning of response? Response here means we are talking about the reaction. Stimulus, and then we are talking about the response. So what will be the meaning of the word response? Reaction to any action that we are talking about. Reaction to a stimulus. Reaction to a stimulus. Then which part of our body is engaged in this? Now if I have to talk about, then which part of our body is engaged in receiving the information? Now I talk about receptors. Am I clear? So I'm saying the sound. There should be some part of our body to receive the sound. Now that I am talking, there should be some part of your body to receive that sound and help you in picking up your pen and write. Now that there is light enough, there should be some part of our body able to absorb this light and help us see. Now that I am in the road, there should be some part of our body which should be able to receive the sound or the horns of the car and help me to take my steps properly. So that is what I'm talking about is receptors. There are a whole lot of receptors in our body which constantly absorbs or receives information from the external environment and gives that to certain parts of our body, and that is how our body parts work. Understanding? So now receptors, which are receptors? What are receptors? Receptors are specialized cells that can receive stimulus. Specialized cells that can receive stimulus. Now when we are talking about these specialized cells which can receive stimulus, I may talk about the eyes, I may talk about the ears, I may talk about the tongue, I may talk about what else? The skin. I may talk about eyes, ears, skin, nose. All these are receptors. So now, to talk about their specific terms, eyes, when I talk about, these are known as photoreceptors. These are called photoreceptors. Ears, these are called phonoreceptors. Ears are called phonoreceptors. Tongue, gustatory receptor. These are called gustatory receptors. Then when I'm talking about skin, skin is known as mechanoreceptor. This is called mechanoreceptor. Then what about the nose? Olfactory receptor. Olfactory receptor. Is this clear? So we are talking about specialized group of cells. The specialized group of cells which are constantly helping in receiving information from the external environment. So now that we are talking about response, then which type of body of our, which are some of the organs of our body, parts of our body, which is that part of our body which is showing the response or the reaction. Now we say these are known as effectors. The effectors show response. The effectors will always show the response. Then which are some examples of effectors to understand? Which are some of the effectors of our body to understand? Effectors can be basically the muscles or the glands of our body. Effectors can be muscles or glands of our body. And what do they do in return? Muscles can basically undergo the process of contraction, just the thing that is happening right now with you. I am saying something, my voice is acting as sound stimulus for you. And your nerves are getting disturbed. And that is sending messages to certain parts of your body, and your muscles of the hand is contracting. That's how you are able to pick up your book and pen and write. And if it is gland, say suppose if I scold you now, what will happen? Sweating? Now if I go very wild at you and keep scolding, your mother scold you, no? Kabhi nahi prashansa? Arey wah. No? So at that time what happens? Tears roll down, you do cry. So at that time what happens? Glands, the glands of our body start secretion. So quite a number of times. Say suppose you saw some tasty food, your favorite food. Did you ever experience salivation in your mouth?
Yes.
Every time. So you're a foodie. So now that we are talking about that when we happen to see our tasty food, अगर वो तभी खा नहीं सकते तो और salivation होती है ना? So now at that time, what are we talking about? Secretion of the gland. So on receiving the stimulus, दो चीज हो सकती है, या तो muscle contraction या तो secretion. So gland से क्या होगा? Gland से secretion हो सकता है ना? Secretion I talked about in response, secretion of hormones हो सकता है, secretion of saliva हो सकता है, secretion of tears हो सकता है, secretion of enzymes हो सकता है. When the food is inside the stomach, secretion of enzymes हो सकता है. So this is the basic concept to understand when we are talking about stimulus and response. But in all this entire story, which type of tissues are we talking about? We are talking about nerves. We are talking about nerves. Then what is the definition of the word nerves? Nerves are bundles of neurons. Nerves are bundles of neurons. Then what are neurons? Neurons are the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. They are the structural and the functional unit of nervous system. So now we talk about the structure of the neuron here. Let us learn the structure of the neuron, their parts and functions. Pick up a pencil and draw this diagram first. Done? You will not color your diagrams, huh? When you draw, see that you don't color your diagrams. I'll give you 5 minutes only to finish this diagram. This optional for you. You need not draw that. I have drawn it because I have to explain the concept. You have to draw only one structure of the one part of the neuron. Only one single neuron is enough. Now, let us look into the diagram now to understand the functions of some of these parts. First of all, I talk about dendrites. What are the characteristics, functions about the dendrites that you should know? They receive impulses. No, they receive stimulus. They receive stimulus. Now, dendrites, when I talk about, what are some of the features? They are small branches. They are small branch processes. They are small branch processes. So these are small branch processes to understand. These are short branch processes to understand numerous. And what are their job? Their job is only to receive stimulus. And what is stimulus? Already we discussed. What is the meaning of the word stimulus? That also you know now. So the function of the dendrites that you are supposed to write is they receive stimulus. The function of the dendrites, they receive stimulus. Is that clear? The dendrites receive stimuli or stimulus. Next is the neurolemma. We have to talk about the function of the neurolemma. That's just the protective cover of the axon. Okay, protective cover. Myelin sheath, something very important to remember. Myelin sheath, when we are talking about, this is a insulated cover. Myelin sheath is an insulated cover, and what does it do? It prevents the loss of messages or impulses, I should say. The loss of impulses. Now, we're going to also talk about what is the meaning of the word impulse. Now, I say the myelin sheath, what it is not a cellular layer, remember, it is just a fatty tissue cover. It is just a fatty tissue. Now, this fatty cover, this fatty layer of fatty tissue is formed by the Schwann cell. Can you see the Schwann cell that we have? These are some specialized cells, and these cells are actually releasing these fatty tissues. And what is this fatty tissue doing? See, it is all surrounding the axon. The fatty tissue is all surrounding the axon, and the messages would be traveling here, no? And if this fatty tissue is not there, there are chances that the messages would just get lost. Something like these electric cables, these electric cables, they are just made up of copper wires. But अगर ये copper wire को हम rubber tubing नहीं देंगे and this plastic casing नहीं देंगे, the moment you switch on your light, the moment you put on the switch here, and by the time the light glows, maybe it will take some few seconds to some few minutes also. Because by the time you put on and the supply starts, maybe there will be so much loss of charges, and by the time you get to see the light glowing or glowing with a lesser intensity. ये हो सकता है. But now that I am putting it on, immediately the light glows, and that also with the full strength. क्योंकि वो जो copper wire है उसमें से charges हम lose ही नहीं होने दे रहे हैं, because we are putting the rubber tubing first and then the plastic casing. So it is something like the same that is happening, or that is actually in our axon. So this axon, which is actually carrying the messages, are protected first of all with the myelin sheath and then with the neurolemma. So both ways there are so much of this protective structures so that the messages cannot be lost. So अभी यहाँ पे I said put on the switch and the light glowing. तो यहाँ पे अगर myelin sheath नहीं होगा, neurolemma is absent, then how will we understand what would be the difference? The difference would be the process of coordination would be very slow. Your mother is asking you get one glass of water, so by the time she gets that glass of water, it will be 15 minutes. Yes, it will be 15 minutes. Hota bhi hoga, hai na? So now that you are talking about, your mother says get a glass of water in 3 minutes, you are giving her prompt. The service is prompt. But if अगर neurons के आसपास अगर myelin sheath नहीं है, neurolemma नहीं है, then that glass of water is reaching her in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So now that is what the difference is. So every time, if I understand that, what would be the function of this myelin sheath and the neurolemma? Protection to hai hi. On top of that, prevent the loss of information, prevent the loss of impulses. Next is what? Axon. For the axon, what are you supposed to understand? What is this axon actually doing? I already said dendrites ka kya job hai. Now what is this axon doing? So if I have to talk about the axon is always helping in Conduction of the impulse. So what is the job of the axon here? The axon always helps in conduction of impulse. So that is the job of axon. Now we are also to learn the definition of the word impulse. What is the definition of this word impulse? What is impulse? Impulse is the wave of disturbance. The wave of disturbance that travels. Wave of disturbance that travels all throughout the length of the axon, all throughout the length of the axon, all throughout the length of the axon. Understood? So the wave of disturbance that is traveling all throughout the length of the axon. That is what is impulse. So what is the definition of the word impulse? Impulse refers to the wave of disturbance. Now we are going to learn how that wave of disturbance exactly happens. Let us finish with the parts. The nodes of Ranvier. What are nodes of Ranvier? Check the diagram properly and then you can see that the myelin sheath and the neurolemma, is it continuous? No, it is interrupted. Exposing the axon at small intervals. So these small regions where the axon remains exposed, these small regions where the axon remains exposed, that is what is called the nodes of Ranvier. So we call this as the nodes of Ranvier. What exactly it is meant for? Quite a number of times it is also meant for the fast movement of the messages. Okay, fast movement of the messages. And then we have got the Schwann cell. I already told you Schwann cell helps in this formation of the myelin sheath. And then we have got the axon terminals. Now we try understanding how exactly the message gets transmitted. See that you are clear about the word, impulse and stimulus. So what I said first of all, the stimulus. Now stimulus can be the sound waves, the light waves, the touch, prick, pressure. So anything, somebody pinching you, somebody poking you, that is also a stimulus, no? So now whenever somebody is pinching you, you react, no? You react in a particular way. So that is the response that you show. Stimulus received by dendrites and immediately the cyton. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention this part. This is the cyton or the cell body. Cyton or the cell body, also known as the perikaryon. Also known as the perikaryon. Mark this. This is very important. Cyton or the cell body, also known as perikaryon. What is it? So I said once the dendrites have received the messages, stimulus. Once the dendrites have received the stimulus, it can be any. The cyton or the cell body, how will it react? It will start releasing some specialized chemical substances. The moment the dendrites have received the messages, it will start releasing some special chemical substances. And these special chemical substances will run down the axon. These special chemical substances are running down the axon. Now that the special chemical substances are running down the axon, it is making the axon get prepared to carry the information further. Now I say that these sound waves which are received by the dendrites, I call it as stimulus. But these sound waves, is it in the same way getting carried over in the entire length of the axon? No, the message is getting carried over in the entire length of the axon, just in the form of some ionic changes. This is the sound wave which the dendrites receive. I call it as stimulus. But the sound wave is not getting transmitted here. Here, how is the message getting transmitted? Here, the message is getting transmitted in the form of some ionic changes. And this wave of disturbance that is carried over all through the length of the axon, that is what we call it as impulse. So what is the definition of the word impulse I wrote just now? The wave of irritation or the wave of disturbance that is carried over the entire length of the axon. Now, with this understanding, we are going to talk about the concept of transmission of nerve impulse. Transmission of nerve impulse. What is transmission of nerve impulse? Let us check. Transmission of nerve impulse, when we say, suppose I talk about, here we are going to understand the sound waves, or now that I am speaking constantly, the sound is acting as a stimulus. So your neurons, or which receptor is receiving this message right now? Which receptor? Phonoreceptor. So the receptors or the dendrites which are exactly on the surface of your ears are actually receiving my voice, and they are transmitting it from one neuron to the other in a sequence. So it is entering from one neuron to the other, going, and then it will go to the brain, and then from the brain it will come back to your hand, and then allowing the contraction of muscles. So that is what is happening right now in your body. So now I'm saying that the sound waves are received by the dendrites. Cyton releases chemicals, and now the messages are getting transmitted all throughout the length of the axon. This is what we are going to study now, transmission of impulse. How does it happen? What actually happens here? So now, but the concept is the message is not getting transmitted right at one go, but step by step. Impulse transmission. So to understand impulse transmission, we have to talk about the axon and try finding out how is the message getting transmitted step by step. So that's the reason I'm drawing a part of the axon now. I draw a part of the axon and try to see that this part of the axon, what are the internal characteristics and the external. So I first of all would name the membrane of the axon as exolemma, and the cytoplasm of the axon as exoplasm. So I am naming the membrane of the axon as exolemma and the cytoplasmic part as exoplasm. So this is the cytoplasmic part of the exoplasm. Now this axon has not yet started carrying the message. This axon has not yet started carrying the message. Then what are some of the ions which are majorly present on the exolemma? The ions which are majorly present on the exolemma are the sodium ions. The ions which are majorly present on the exolemma are the sodium ions. So now I am saying when this axon has not yet started carrying the message, sodium concentration is at its highest on the exolemma. What about the exoplasm? Exoplasm, I would say that there is a whole lot of potassium ions. There's a whole lot of chlorides. There's a whole lot of proteins negatively charged, overall giving a negative charge to the inner region of the axon. Overall giving a negative charge to the inner region of the axon. Aaya samajh mein? So what I'm saying is right now, is this axon conducting any message? No, it is not conducting any message. Now, if it is not conducting any message, then what should I name this stage as? I should name this stage as the resting state, or also known as the polarized state. I should name this as the resting state or the polarized state. Why? Because it has not yet started conducting any message. This part is a bit difficult. See that you understand. Nahi samajh mein aa raha hai to pucho. So I'm saying that I'm talking about a part of the axon right now and trying to understand ये जो message कैसे जाता है in the axon, how does it get transferred? So first I said अब तक this axon has not started carrying any message. ऐसे कभी होता है when the axon is not carrying any message? Yes, it happens. Every time our axons take a millisecond period of rest. तुम भी करते हो ना, एक काम कर लिया and then after that you sit in the sofa for 15 minutes. बहुत सारा काम हो गया. So the axon cannot afford to take so long, but a millisecond of rest it takes to re-establish everything. So एक काम हो गया, एक message transmit हो गया. Now that I am constantly saying so many things, remember in your neuron every message is going word by word. In your neuron, every information is getting passed letter by letter, word by word. तो एक letter लेके एक word लेने के बाद एक millisecond period of rest, and then you understand the next word. But the process is so fast, like the pictures moving in our TV, television. So हमें लगता है ये continuous चीज जा रहा है, but actually it is one picture जाता है, उसके बाद दूसरा image जाता है, उसके बाद तीसरा जाता है. but it is so fast हमें वो continuous लगता है. So exactly the same thing is happening in our neurons. The process is so fast हमें लगता है कि we are understanding the entire sentences. No, but actually we are understanding one word पूरा गया, then the second word पूरा गया, 1 millisecond rest, then the third word. It is like that. So when the neuron is not meaning when the neuron is in the resting state, 1 millisecond period of rest जो वो लेता है, this is called the resting state, polarized state. It is taking up the stimulus. Now it is taking up the stimulus. Now that it is taking up the stimulus, now that the message again it is involved in taking the next word that I am speaking. The next word that I am speaking. So now it has started taking up the message. अभी एक message आया, cell body तक गया, and now it has started moving. If I say like that, then what will happen? A small region of the axon will suffer from a change. अब क्या होगा? Now that message transmit होने लगा है, move होने लगा है, there will be movement of ions from inside to outside and vice versa. मतलब, how should I draw the next step? I should draw the next step something like this. I should draw the next step something like this, where I am showing that यहाँ पे कुछ तो disturbance हो रहा है, where the positive ions are moving inside and the negative ions have gone outside. The positive ions have moved inside, negative ions have come inside. Is it the same for the entire axon? No, step by step. अभी इतना सारा axon, अभी छोटा सा region अभी disturbed हुआ है. The rest of the axon is yet to be disturbed. So how should I draw? I should draw like this. I should draw like this. मतलब major part of the axon is still in the resting state. Disturbance अभी थोड़ा सा जगह में ही हुआ है. The message is now getting transmitted. Start हुआ है, and this particular region of the axon got disturbed. How are we going to name this stage of the axon? How will we name this stage of the axon? We will write this is the excited state, also known as the depolarized state. तो depolarized state मतलब it is the excited state of the axon जब एक छोटा सा region में ionic changes होने लगा है. Ions are moving from outside to inside, inside to outside. But यहाँ पे sodium ions maximally present है, यहाँ पे potassium chloride proteins maximally present है. The sodium ions are moving from a region of high to low, and potassium chlorides are moving from a region of low to high. You may be confusing that if I talk about potassium, why am I writing negative here? Overall charge negative here. Never mind, potassium तो positive ही होता है, but the chlorides and the proteins and etc. ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा there are negatively charged molecules inside. So the overall charge in the inner region is negative. What am I saying again? I am saying in this first step, the sodium ions are moving from a region of high concentration to low. The potassium and the chlorides are moving from a region of high to low. High to low. Sodium बाहर से अंदर आया, high to low आया ना. So what is this process? This is passive transport, simple passive transport. It's not eating. Passive transport when we are talking about simple diffusion we are talking about. Moving from a high to a low. Take a note. When I talk about the concept of depolarization, it is simple diffusion. Passive transport we call it as. Now, how will this region get excited? How will the message move further? This message will move further because this will act as a stimulus now for the next. ये जो disturbance अभी हुआ है, will it remain as it is? No, it will move further. So this disturbance will affect the next. This disturbance will affect the next. This disturbance will affect the next. When Radhika starts talking, she also will start talking. When she also, and then continuous होता. When I throw one stone in the pond which is still, एक ripple होके बंद हो जाएगा. No, एक से दूसरा, दूसरे से तीसरा, and then quite a large area gets affected and disturbed. So same thing is happening in the axon. This disturbance will now move over to the next. Then how should we draw? What should be the next figure? The next figure would be something like this, where I am to understand, abhi now this local region will be disturbed, the second region will be disturbed. So how should I show the disturbance? How should I show the disturbance?
Positive ions inside.
Positive ions will move inside and negative ions go outside. Positive ions move inside, negative ions go outside. How should I draw this part?
Negative ions inside and positive ions outside.
Same like this. Yet to be disturbed. No, I said ये जो message transmit होता है, it happens in parts, step by step. So this part is just like the resting state. अभी तक disturbed हुआ नहीं है. It is yet to be disturbed. And what about this one? And what about this? Will it affect the next? Yes, it will also affect the next. This will act as a stimulus for the next region. And what about this region? This is restoring back. This was disturbed earlier. Now the disturbance has moved forward and the back region of the axon is re-establishing. So the positive ions are again going back, negative coming in. Negative coming in, positive going back. But now this positive is going from here to here. Is it moving from a region of high to low or low to high? These positive ions are moving from a region of low to high or high to low. आया समझ में what I am asking you? पहले जब when the positive ions were moving inside, they were moving from a region of high to low. यहाँ पे सोडियम concentration ज़्यादा है. अब जब थोड़ा सा सोडियम अंदर आया था, little bit of a sodium only had come in, no, a small portion. And now when the disturbance impulse moves forward, this sodium will always have a tendency of going back again. So are these sodium ions more in a concentration inside or is it lesser concentration? Lesser. So are they moving from a, can I say that they are moving from a region of low concentration to high? Yes. क्योंकि यहाँ पे अभी भी बहुत सारा सोडियम है. So they are moving from a region of low to high. Since they are moving from a low to high, is it an easy movement? Of course not. Moving from a region of low to high will never be an easy movement. So that's the reason we are also to understand here that actually on the membrane of the axon, there are some special chemical enzyme complexes, and these enzyme complexes are known as sodium potassium ATPases. So this sodium potassium ATPases or sodium potassium pump, these are also called sodium potassium pump. So what are these? These are actually breaking down the ATP to ADP and inorganic phosphate and giving that energy supply ताकि ये जो सोडियम है low concentration area से high concentration area तक जा पाए. And ये जो potassium and chlorides है, they also can move from a region of low concentration to a region of high. So if you remember the concept of absorption by roots, वहाँ पे भी the same concept we had learned, where the molecules need to move from a region of low to high, they need expenditure of energy in the form of ATP. तो उस process को हम क्या बोलेंगे? Phosphorylation तो ये हो गया. But diffusion or movement of ions from a region of low to high concentration, उसको क्या बोलेंगे? With the use of ATP, active transport. तो ये जो process है, this process is active transport. Remember, with the usage of enzyme complexes known as sodium potassium pump. तो ये जो stage of the neuron है, what is this stage of the neuron now known as? I already talked about 1, I already talked about 2. Now let me talk about the third stage. What will we talk about this third stage? How can we name this third stage? This third stage is known as the stable state or the repolarization or repolarized state. The stable state or the repolarized state. So how will the next part of the axon again get disturbed? The disturbance will be carried further. So now that we are looking into the 3 basic stages of nerve impulse transmission. So which are the 3 basic stages? Polarized state, depolarized and repolarized. So ऐसे चलते चलते ultimately what will happen? The message transmission will, or the messages will reach till here. The information will reach till here. Impulses will reach till here. So how is the impulse transmission? In the form of ionic disturbances, ionic changes all throughout the length of the axon. Ionic changes hua hai. Now because of the ionic changes, now next one, the message has been conveyed to the end part of the axon. अब जब end part of the axon आ गया है, now that the message has come till here, now next what? Some chemical droplets will start getting released. Some chemical droplets will start getting released. Now let me try understanding what is happening exactly in this region where I say that ये जो axon terminal है, I can name this axon terminal as a presynaptic neuron. I can name one of this. I'm talking about this part. I'm drawing this part. Axon terminal. I'm naming it as what? Presynaptic neuron. I'm drawing this as, or a presynaptic membrane. So what I said, by the time the message has reached here, what happened? Some chemical droplets started getting synthesized, and these chemical droplets started getting packed in small vesicles. They started getting packed in small vesicles like this, and they started moving towards the axon membrane. Then ये जो vesicles which will come and fuse with the membrane, the molecules will be released outside. Which molecules are we talking about? These molecules are known as the neurotransmitters. The molecules are known as neurotransmitters. One example of neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is one such example. So now next what? I'm saying that what will happen to these molecules? They will diffuse through a particular space. So what is this space called? This space is called the synapse. So diffuse होके कहाँ पे जाना है? It will go to the dendrites of the next neuron. That's why I have drawn this. So now these molecules यहाँ से निकल के आएगा, and then they will come in contact with the dendrites of the next neuron. So this dendrites of the next neuron, I will name it as the postsynaptic neuron. Postsynaptic, क्योंकि synapse के बाद. So I name it as the postsynaptic neuron. So this postsynaptic neuron is actually what? It is actually the dendrites. The postsynaptic neuron or the postsynaptic membrane that I'm talking about is what actually, this is actually the dendrite of the next neuron in the chain. So abhi ye molecules, they will start diffusing and they will start entering here. There are a whole lot of receptors here. They will start entering. Now that they start entering, what will these molecules act as? This will act as stimulus for the next process to run. And इस particular neuron में भी same इसी तरह से nerve impulse transmission अभी होगा. So this entire process of nerve impulse transmission जो in two parts हुआ है. One is in the entire length of the axon, जिसको बोलेंगे electrical transmission. And now which has happened in the synapse, इसको बोलेंगे chemical transmission. Collectively, we are talking about electrochemical nature of impulse transmission. Electrochemical nature of impulse transmission. तो electrical कहाँ पे हो रहा है? In the axon. Chemical कहाँ पे हो रहा है? In the synapse. Where the molecules, neurotransmitters are moving from the axon terminals, diffusing through the synapse and entering into the dendrites of the next. What are the common names? Presynaptic, क्योंकि synapse के पहले है ये. Presynaptic and postsynaptic membranes. आया समझ में? Go through this part. Tell me next class if it is understood, then we'll move ahead. Okay? Diagram. I did not give you time to draw, but ये diagram draw करना है. All of you, those who did not finish, will complete this 3 diagrams properly, neatly in a notebook with the basic stages written. Okay?
गोल्डफिश असतात ना खरंच नाही